The morning sun cast long shadows across our family's wheat fields as I stood on the farmhouse porch, coffee warming my hands. At 28, I'd spent more years working this land than some people spend in careers. The 400-acre farm had been in our family for 3 generations, but debt was crushing us slowly. Dad had passed 2 years ago, leaving grief and a mountain of debt that threatened everything. Mum withdrew into herself, spending days in her rocking chair, staring at fields that might soon belong to the bank. My brother Jake fled to Chicago after the funeral. That left me alone to face the music. The numbers were stark. Between mortgage, equipment loans, and operating debt, we owed nearly $300,000. The bank's patience was wearing thin. I'd attended enough farm auctions to know how quickly a lifetime of work could disappear. But I had a plan. For months, I'd been working 16-hour days, taking custom farming jobs, selling everything non-essential. I even took a part-time job at the grain elevator, stacking paychecks like sandbags against a flood. Every penny went toward that debt. Standing in the dawn light, watching wheat sway in the breeze, I felt the familiar ache of love mixed with responsibility. This land wasn't just livelihood, it was identity, history, future, and I was determined to save it no matter the cost. The alarm buzzed at 4:30 a.m., but I was already calculating numbers. Sleep had become a luxury I couldn't afford. I rolled out of bed, pulled on work boots, and headed to the kitchen where Mom made coffee in silence. My first stop was the Henderson farm. They needed corn harvested, and I'd negotiated good rates. By 6 a.m. I was in the combine, working through fields while morning dew clung to stalks. The work was meditative. Just me, the machine, and endless rows of grain. At noon, I'd grab a sandwich and head to the grain elevator for afternoon shifts. The work was backbreaking, but the extra $15 hourly was adding up. Every dollar brought us closer to freedom. Evenings were reserved for our farm. I'd maintain equipment, check cattle, plan strategy. Often I worked past midnight, headlamp casting shadows as I repaired machinery. The physical exhaustion was manageable, but emotional weight was crushing. Friends my age were marrying, starting families, building lives beyond endless planting and harvest cycles. I watched their social media with envy and resignation. Mom rarely commented on my schedule, but sometimes I'd catch her watching with an expression I couldn't read. Concern, gratitude, something else. I was too tired to analyze deeply. 3 months in, I experienced my first breakthrough. A good week at the elevator, combined with Henderson harvest payment, allowed a $15,000 loan payment. Walking into the bank with that check felt like scoring overtime touchdowns. "This is your largest payment since your father passed," said Janet, our loan officer. "How are you managing it?" I explained multiple income streams, careful budgeting, elimination of non-essentials. She nodded approvingly. Perhaps surprised someone my age would sacrifice so much for what many considered a losing battle. "Your balance is now $278,000. At this rate, it's actually manageable." Driving home, I felt hope for the first time in months. Maybe this crazy plan could work. Maybe I could save the farm and secure our future. That evening, I shared news with Mom over dinner. She looked up from her meatloaf, really seeing me for the first time in weeks. "Your father would be proud." Her voice cracked slightly. We sat in comfortable silence, both imagining Dad's reaction. He'd probably clap my shoulder and insist we celebrate with porch beers. But the moment passed, and Mom retreated into her shell. Still, progress was intoxicating. I started keeping a chart on my bedroom wall, tracking payments, watching debt shrink. Some exhausted nights, I'd stare at those numbers, remembering why I was doing this. 6 months into my debt crusade, fortune smiled unexpectedly. The Johnsons, our elderly neighbors, decided to sell their farm and move to Florida. Instead of listing with realtors, they approached me directly. "We know you're a good worker, son," Mr. Johnson said. We'd like to offer you first right of refusal on our equipment at fair prices, better than auction. The equipment sale was a gold mine. Their nearly new combine tractors and implements were worth far more than they asked. I negotiated to buy several pieces for immediate resale profit, keeping one tractor to replace our aging machinery. The transaction netted $45,000 profit, more money than I'd ever seen. Standing in our machine shed, surrounded by newly acquired equipment, I felt like I'd won the lottery. "What's all this?" Mom asked, emerging to investigate the commotion. I explained the deal, excitement bubbling as I detailed how profit would accelerate our debt timeline. For the first time since Dad's death, she smiled, really smiled. "Your father always said you had a good head for business. He'd be amazed at what you're accomplishing." That night, I updated my debt chart with massive payment projections. At this rate, we could be debt-free in 18 months instead of 3 years. The finish line was finally visible. With $150,000 remaining, I entered the final phase. Every waking moment focused on reaching zero. I took additional custom work, even barely break-even jobs, just maintaining momentum. The physical toll was evident. I'd lost 20 pounds, clothes hanging loose. Dark circles took permanent residence under my eyes, but I wore exhaustion badges with pride, proof of commitment. Mum's attitude shifted dramatically. She started cooking larger meals, packing extra lunches, helping with farm bookkeeping. It felt like we were finally working as a team. "You're pushing too hard," she said one evening as I stumbled into the kitchen after 18 hours. "Just a little longer, Mom. We're so close I can taste it." She studied my face with maternal concern. "Your health is more important than this farm." I shook my head firmly. "This farm is everything. It's Dad's legacy, our family's future. I won't let it go without a fight." I negotiated payment plans with remaining creditors, consolidated loans, reducing interest rates, even sold my pickup for an older model, cutting monthly expenses by $400. Every dollar saved was applied to debt. The finish line was so close I could almost touch it. Just a few more months of sacrifice, and the farm would be free and clear. The morning of our final debt payment, I woke before my alarm with nervous energy. After 18 months of grueling work and sacrifice, this was it, Freedom Day. I'd arranged to meet Janet at 9 a.m. with a cashier's check for $47,128.14, every last penny we owed. The number was burned into memory, representing months of 16-hour days and physical exhaustion that nearly broke me. Mum was already dressed in her best church dress and nervous smile. "I want to come with you. This is a family moment." We drove to town in comfortable silence, both lost in thought. I kept glancing at the check in my shirt pocket, afraid it might disappear. Janet was waiting with papers spread across her desk. "This is certainly a day for celebration. I have to admit, when you started this journey, I wasn't sure it was possible." I handed over the check, watching as she processed final payment. The computer screen showed our balance, 0.000, free and clear. "Congratulations, the farm is officially debt-free." Mom was crying, tears of relief, joy, and pride mixed together. I felt my own eyes welling as the magnitude hit me. We'd saved the farm. We'd preserved Dad's legacy. We'd secured our future. Walking out of that bank, I felt lighter than I had in years. The crushing weight pressing my shoulders was finally gone. That evening, we held our private celebration on the front porch. I'd bought champagne, the first non-essential purchase in over a year. Mum prepared my favorite meal, pot roast with fixings, fresh bread, and apple pie from our own trees. "To your father," Mum said, raising her glass as sunset painted our wheat fields gold. "He would be so proud. To Dad, and to this farm's future." We sat listening to familiar sounds, cattle lowing, wind through corn, the old windmill's steady rhythm. These sounds were my childhood soundtrack, and now they'd continue another generation. I'd called Jake that afternoon, finally reaching him in Chicago. "You actually did it? You saved the farm?" "We're completely debt-free as of today. The farm is secure." Long pause. "I always thought you were crazy for staying, but maybe you're the smart one. There's always room here if you want to come home." "Thanks, but the city is my life now. Just take care of Mom." That night, I slept better than I had in months. The constant worry, crushing pressure, fear of losing everything, all gone. We were free. In weeks following our debt freedom, I envisioned the farm's future with fresh eyes. Without loan payments consuming every dollar, we could finally invest in improvements. I drafted plans for upgraded irrigation, expanded cattle operations, specialty crops commanding premium prices. Mum seemed revitalized. She'd started tending her garden again, abandoned after Dad's death. The house felt warmer, more alive. I also began considering my own future differently. At 29, I'd devoted my entire adult life to saving the farm. Now secure, perhaps it was time for other aspects, maybe even dating. Sarah Peterson from the feed store had been friendly lately. "You should ask her out," Mum said, having noticed my distraction. "You've sacrificed enough. It's time to live a little." The freedom to make plans beyond survival felt intoxicating. I started small, new work clothes, replacement appliances, even subscribing to a farm management magazine I'd wanted but couldn't justify. I also thought about legal aspects. The farm was technically still in Mum's name, though I'd been making all decisions and payments for 2 years. "We should probably meet with a lawyer," I mentioned one evening, "to formalize ownership arrangements." Mum looked up from knitting with a strange expression. "What do you mean? I've been running everything and making payments. We should formalize the arrangement, maybe discuss inheritance planning." She was quiet, needles clicking steadily. "We'll see. No need to rush anything." A month after debt payoff, I received a disturbing call from Tom Bradley, a real estate developer. "I understand your family farm is debt-free now. I'm interested in discussing a potential purchase for residential development. We're not selling. This farm has been in our family for 3 generations. I understand sentimental value, but I'm prepared to offer significantly above market value, enough money to set your family up for life." I hung up, irritated. How did he know our financial situation? Only a few people knew about our debt payoff. That evening, I mentioned the call to Mom. "Developers are circling like vultures. Can you believe the nerve?" Mom was unusually quiet, pushing food around her plate. "What did you tell him?" "That we weren't interested, of course. This farm isn't for sale at any price." She nodded slowly, but something in her expression bothered me. There was thoughtfulness that seemed out of place for such an obvious decision. "Mom, you're not actually considering selling, are you?" "Of course not, but I was curious about his offer." Over the next days, I noticed Mom was distracted. She'd stare out windows for long periods, and I caught her on phone calls that ended abruptly when I entered rooms. Something was changing, and I didn't like it. The truth crashed down on a humid Thursday morning. I was repairing fence when I saw an unfamiliar car in our driveway. A suited man talked with Mom on the porch for nearly an hour. "Mom, who was that?" She stood holding an envelope, looking older than I'd seen her since Dad's funeral. "That was Mr. Stevens, a real estate agent." The words hit like a physical blow. "A real estate agent? What's going on?" I've been thinking about what that developer said, about the money, about our future. Our future is here, on this farm, the farm I just saved. You saved it from bankruptcy. That doesn't mean you own it. The world tilted sideways. "What do you mean?" "This farm is in my name. It's been mine since your father died. You've been working it, managing it, but legally it belongs to me." I stared, unable to process her words. "But I paid off all the debt. I sacrificed everything to save this place. And I'm grateful, more grateful than you'll ever know. But that doesn't change legal reality. This is my farm, and I have the right to make decisions about its future. The envelope seemed to glow with malevolent intent. What's in there? A purchase agreement. The developer is offering $2.8 million for our 400 acres. This farm is my life. This is everything I've worked for. And now you can have a different life, a better life. You can do all the things you gave up to save this place. Looking at her face, I realized she wasn't considering it. She'd already decided. The following days passed in desperate negotiation. I pleaded, reasoned, bargained, trying every angle to change her mind. She remained resolute. The developer wants to close within 60 days. I've already signed the preliminary agreement. Without discussing it with me. I'm discussing it now. After the fact, this is insane. You can't sell the farm I just saved. She looked at me with pity. Saving something doesn't make you its owner. I tried different approaches. What about Dad? What would he think? Her composure cracked slightly. Your father is dead. I'm tired of worrying about weather and crop prices. I want security. This farm is security. It's been barely supporting us. 2. $8 million means I never worry about money again. It means you don't work 18-hour days just to break even. Her words stung with truth. Even debt-free, farming was constant struggle against weather, markets, economics. But it was our struggle, our way of life. What if I buy the farm from you? I'll match the developer's offer. She laughed bitterly. With what money? You spent everything paying off debt. I'll get a loan, find investors, give me time. 60 days. If you can come up with $2.8 million in 60 days, the farm is yours. Otherwise, I'm selling. That night, staring at the ceiling, my mind raced. 60 days to raise $2.8 million. It seemed impossible, but I had to try. I threw myself into finding financing with the same intensity I'd applied to debt elimination. I met with every bank in 50 miles, pitched investors, contacted distant relatives. The responses were uniformly discouraging. Without significant collateral beyond the farm itself, no bank would loan $2.8 million. You're asking us to loan money to buy something generating maybe $100,000 yearly, one banker explained. The math doesn't work. I tried explaining intangible value, heritage, way of life, connection to land. But numbers were numbers. Meanwhile, Mom moved forward as if I'd already given up. She met with lawyers, signed documents, made plans. When I asked where she'd live after the sale, she mentioned a Florida retirement community. Florida? You're moving to Florida? It's warm year-round, no snow, no crops to worry about. I can play bridge and take painting classes. This wasn't the farm wife who'd helped Dad with chores, canned vegetables from our garden, been as much part of this land as the soil itself. With 3 weeks left, I made one desperate attempt. I called Jake. I need your help. Mom's selling the farm, and I can't stop her alone. What do you want me to do? Talk to her, convince her not to sell. Long pause. Why would I do that? I never wanted the farm anyway. Maybe it's time to let it go. This is our family's legacy. No, it's your legacy. You chose to stay, but maybe Mom's right. Maybe it's time for something different. After hanging up, I sat in Dad's old chair, surrounded by 3 generations of family photos, faces asking, how did it come to this? With 1 week remaining, I made a decision that would haunt me forever. I called the local newspaper and told our story, how I'd sacrificed everything to save the family farm, only to have it sold out from under me. The article appeared on Wednesday's front page. Local man saves farm, loses it anyway. The reporter captured both human drama and broader implications about disappearing family farms. Response was immediate. My phone rang constantly with support calls, advice, even small donations. Local radio picked up the story, then regional TV news. Within days, there was a Save the Henderson Farm online fundraising campaign. Strangers across the country sent checks with notes about their own family farm stories. It was touching but heartbreaking. Donations totaled just over $50,000, generous but inadequate. Mom was furious about the publicity. How could you embarrass our family like this? Family business? You're selling my life's work to strangers and you're worried about embarrassment. I'm worried about being portrayed as the villain in your sob story. What reasons justify selling this farm? That you want to play bridge in Florida instead of preserving Dad's legacy? She drew herself up with wounded dignity. Your father would understand. He never wanted me to struggle like his mother did, working herself to death on land that barely supported the family. Dad loved this farm. Dad loved me. He would want me secure and happy, not tied to ground that's already taken too much from our family. The closing was Friday. Thursday night, I walked our property boundaries, saying goodbye to every landmark. The oak where Dad built my tire swing, the creek where I caught my first fish, the hill where I learned to drive tractors. Friday morning arrived grey and overcast, matching my mood. Mom dressed carefully as if going to church instead of a funeral, because that's what this felt like, the death of everything I'd worked for. At the lawyer's office, I sat silently while papers were signed and money changed hands. The developer was cordial but businesslike, already discussing construction timelines. To him, our family farm was just acreage for Meadowbrook Estates, 37 new homes. When finished, Mom tried handing me a check. Your share, $1.4 million. You can start over anywhere. I stared at the paper representing more money than I'd ever imagined. It was also the price of my dreams, identity, future. I don't want it. Don't be foolish. Take the money. Build a new life. I had a life. You sold it. I walked out and didn't look back. I drove straight through town, past our former farm, and kept driving until I reached the state line. 3 months later, I'm in Montana working for a ranching operation that reminds me enough of home to be bearable. The farm sale money sits untouched in a bank account. I can't spend what I consider blood money, but can't return it either. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice, sacrificing everything for a farm that was never really mine to save. But then I remember those 18 months of back-breaking work, the satisfaction of each debt payment, the moment we reached zero. For a brief time, I had saved something precious. Mom sends letters occasionally. She's happy in Florida, playing bridge and taking painting classes as planned. She asked me to call, visit, forgive her. Maybe someday I will, but not yet. The farm is gone now, bulldozers having leveled Dad's barn and the house where 3 generations were born. Meadowbrook Estates is taking shape with sidewalks, streetlights and lawns that will never know harvest satisfaction. But late at night, when Montana wind sounds almost like Kansas breeze through our wheat fields, I close my eyes and remember what it felt like to own that piece of earth, even briefly. Some things can't be bulldozed. The memory of dawn over our pastures, satisfaction of work well done, knowledge that I gave everything to save what I loved. It wasn't enough, but it was everything, and sometimes that has to be sufficient. Thank you so much for listening to this story from such a personal and painful place. Family, land, and loyalty are complicated things, and sometimes the people we love most hurt us deepest. I'd love to hear from all of you who took time to listen. Please write in the comments below and let me know what part of the world you're listening from. Are you in a small farming community like I was, a big city, or somewhere in between? Do you have your own stories of family farms or difficult family decisions? And if this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing to the channel. There are more stories to tell, more experiences to share, and I'd be honored to have you along for the journey. Until next time, take care of each other, and remember, sometimes saving something isn't the same as keeping it, but that doesn't mean the effort wasn't worth it.